So, the story we're diving into today comes from an amazing deep dive by the Darknet Diaries podcast. It's a wild one. It starts with the goal that's, well, pretty normal, but it ends up spiraling into this massive international crime spree. I mean, this one sentence really says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the whole journey. That slow slide into the digital shadows that suddenly turns into an absolute freefall. And just to be clear, this isn't fiction. This is a true story, a real-life case study of how a simple ambition, once it bumps into the hidden corners of the internet, can have consequences on a global scale. We're talking millions of people affected. And right at the heart of it all, there's this one guy, Hugh Mengo, from Vietnam. His whole story began not with some evil master plan, but with a desire that honestly sounds pretty harmless. That's it. That was the spark. Not a plan to build a criminal empire, just that modern urge to earn a living on the internet. It's such a relatable starting point, which makes where he ended up all the more shocking. And this is where everything changes. While he was searching for ways to make money, Hugh stumbled onto the dark web. You know, that hidden, anonymous, and totally unregulated layer of the internet? This was the fork in the road, and it led him to a whole lot more than just a legitimate job. So, on the dark web, Hugh didn't just find a new gig. No. He found an entire underground economy built on illegal trade. A place where our data, was the new gold. So what is this market, really? Well, imagine a hidden online world where things that should never, ever be for sale are traded every second. And in this story, the ultimate commodity was personal data. Names, social security numbers, birth dates, your private info. He'd found a marketplace for all of it. And once he found this place, things escalated fast. I mean, shockingly fast. His little operation went from a one-man show to a major criminal enterprise in just a few key steps. First, it all starts as a simple side hustle. Hale was just scanning websites to find and sell email addresses to spammers. You know, a small-time, kind of shady operation to make a little extra cash. But then he discovers this massive, completely unethical opportunity. He figured out he could trick these huge data broker companies, the ones that legally have tons of our personal info, into giving him access just by pretending to be a private investigator from the US. And with this, just fire hose of data, he builds his own illicit service on the dark web. It was basically a search engine for crime, a website where other criminals could pay him a small fee to look up the personal details of pretty much any American. He became a superstar in that world. And the result? A full-blown international crime spree. His little service sold access to the personal data of over 200 million Americans. This led to something like 1.3 million cases of identity theft and almost $1 billion in fake tax returns filed by his customers. It got so huge, it finally got the attention of the Secret Service. So you might be wondering, where does a story this detailed and verified even come from? Well, it comes from a source that lives and breathes this stuff. The Darknet Diaries podcast, which tells these incredible true stories from the digital underground. The full, mind-blowing story is laid out in episode 162, hosted by the amazing storyteller Jack Reiser. And check this out, that clean rating, that tells you the story is just so powerful on its own. It doesn't need any cheap thrills or sensationalism to be gripping. And you can tell how serious this topic is just by looking at who supported the episode. Companies like ThreatLocker and Red Canary, these guys are literally on the front lines of cybersecurity. Their involvement shows that Hugh's story isn't just entertainment. It's a real-world case study of the exact threats they fight every single day. Look, what we've talked about here, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. The full story, with the cat and mouse game with federal agents and the absolutely wild sting operation they set up to lure him out of Vietnam, it's all waiting. The full explainer runs for an hour and 34 minutes. That's how much story there is to tell here. That's the level of detail it takes to unpack how one simple goal led to one of the biggest data thefts in history and a takedown that spanned the entire globe. So, at the end of the day, Hugh's story leaves us with this huge question, one that's super relevant for our time. In a world where there's so much pressure to make it online, How thin really is that line between ambition and crime? And maybe more importantly, how easy is it to cross?